I don't think people realize just how many times over the centuries Christians have tried and failed to predict Jesus' return. From the earliest days of the church, believers have been fascinated, even obsessed, with the idea of pinpointing the exact moment when Christ would come back. There have been countless gatherings, passionate sermons, and even entire movements built around the hope that someone somewhere had finally cracked the code. But time and again, these predictions have ended in disappointment. Date setting just never pans out. No matter how convincing the arguments, how detailed the calculations, or how sincere the believers, every attempt to set a date for Jesus' return has ended the same way, with unmet expectations and often a sense of letdown among those who were so sure they had it right. So why does this keep happening? The answer is actually pretty simple, and it comes straight from the Bible itself. If we take a closer look at what Scripture says, we find clear guidance on this topic, guidance that's often overlooked in the excitement of trying to solve the mystery. Let's start with what Jesus himself said. In Matthew 24, he's crystal clear. No one knows the day or the hour, not the angels in heaven, not even the Son, but only the Father. These words aren't vague or open to interpretation. Jesus is telling us in no uncertain terms that the timing of his return is a secret known only to God. It's not something we can figure out, no matter how hard we try. So if anyone tells you they've cracked the code, that they've found a hidden message or a secret formula in the Bible that reveals the date, well, they haven't. No matter how persuasive they sound or how many followers they gather, their predictions are destined to fall short. The Bible simply doesn't give us that information. But that doesn't mean we're left in the dark, wandering aimlessly or without hope. In fact, the Bible gives us plenty of insight into what to expect as history unfolds. We're not told the exact time, but we are given signs to watch for, clues that remind us to stay alert and spiritually awake. The Bible does talk about certain signs: wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes, famines, and a world where love seems to go missing. These aren't just random events, they're reminders that the world is broken, that history is moving toward a climax, and that God's promises are still in motion. When we see these things, we're meant to remember that God is still at work, even in the chaos. Yes, these are reminders that history is heading somewhere, but they're not a secret timetable. They don't give us a countdown or a calendar date. Instead, they serve as wake-up calls, nudging us to pay attention, to reflect on our lives, and to renew our commitment to faith. They're spiritual signposts, not a schedule. They point us in the right direction, encouraging us to stay on the path, but they don't tell us exactly when we'll reach the destination. It's like traveling at night with lanterns. You can see enough to keep moving forward, but not so much that you know every detail ahead. Now, a quick stroll through church history shows plenty of missed guesses. From medieval prophets to modern-day preachers, there's a long list of people who were absolutely convinced they had figured it out. They wrote books, held conferences, and sometimes even convinced entire communities to prepare for a specific date. People have set dates, written books, sold t-shirts, and then quietly moved on when nothing happened. The cycle repeats, excitement builds, predictions are made, and then when the day comes and goes, there's disappointment, embarrassment, and often a quiet retreat from the spotlight. Instead of chasing predictions, the Bible warns us, stay watchful, but don't get swept up in the excitement of clever theories. It's easy to get caught up in speculation, but Scripture calls us to something deeper, a steady, faithful vigilance that isn't shaken by the latest headline or theory. So, what are we actually meant to do? If we're not supposed to predict the date, what's our calling as we wait? The answer is surprisingly practical and down to earth. We're called to live out our faith in everyday life, to love our neighbors, serve those in need, and build each other up in hope. Jesus tells us to be ready, like faithful stewards, always prepared, like wise bridesmaids, lamps burning bright. The parables he shared weren't about solving puzzles or cracking codes. They were about being faithful, alert, and prepared for his return whenever it might come. Encourage one another, hold on to hope, and don't let your faith go cold, waiting for the big day. The real challenge isn't figuring out when Jesus will return, but staying faithful and hopeful in the meantime, supporting each other, worshiping together, and keeping the flame of faith alive. In the end, the question isn't, when will Jesus return? That's a mystery that belongs to God alone. The real question is much more personal and immediate. Are we living each day as if he could return at any moment? Are our hearts ready, our lives aligned with his teachings, and our hands busy with the work he's given us? Are we living each day as if he could? Are we showing love, mercy, and kindness to those around us? Are we making the most of every opportunity to reflect Christ's love in a world that desperately needs it? That's the real call, not to predict, but to prepare, to live with hope, to serve with joy, and to trust that whenever Jesus returns, he'll find us faithful, ready, and full of expectation. That's the kind of life that truly honors the promise of his return.